definitely. I mean, he's an
Oh,
amazing fighter.
he's the greatest fighter of the century, man. Not
Yeah,
only the
definitely.
greatest pay-per-view star, but ain't nobody gonna be better than Floyd, man. You know what I mean?
Mm.
He's pretty damn good, and he's pretty
Yeah.
damn good.
So sticking with Michigan, you've also been around Emanuel Steward. Uh,
Oh,
so,
man.
so
Oh,
what were his? Can you describe his coaching methods and what you took from him?
I first met Manuel in the '90s, early '90s. My guy beat his guy at the U.S. Nationals. My guy won it that year. Clayton Williams, he passed away. He beat his guy, Tarek Salmaki. Yeah, at
Oh yeah, Tag Massey. Yeah, yeah. He's on Instagram as well.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
good
Good
guy,
fighter
great
he
guy.
was. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I first met Manuel. Then I met him at the Olympic trials in '92 because his guy fought in it. My guy fought in it. My guy lost, and he lost. And then I started getting to know him. I used to see him. I used to see him. He used to come to Sacramento for fights because he had a fighter. He would help out. Then I really got to talk to him at the Olympic trials. But I really started getting to know him at Big Bear Lake Training Camp. Larry Goosen. Remember I told you all the trainers
Mm,
were there, and he would bring
yeah.
Lennox, Tommy, and all his crew. And I used to watch Manny train Lennox. I remember one day in the gym, we were done, so we were just watching Lennox. All he did was have him shadow box for 12 rounds straight. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard
And
they used to do that. Amazing.
I go, that all you're gonna do? He goes, yeah. He goes, you gotta learn your footwork. He goes, boxing starts with footwork. Without footwork, you ain't got no balance. He goes, without balance, you can't do nothing. That that right there, Manuel told me, you got to have footwork. The
Mm,
boxing starts with footwork and balance. So every time I work with my guys, either new or guys I always have, I got now. I always make sure their footwork's good. We're always working on footwork, moving in and out of range, moving in circles, okay, moving in angles, okay, making sure they're not tripping over their feet, making sure that they're balanced. Because without balance, you ain't got no defense, you ain't got no offense. So Manny, that always stuck in my head. And Manny always told me about the importance of the jab. See, he made Lennox Lewis a better fighter. Before Lennox Lewis,
yeah.
Lennox was being trained by Pepe Correa, who was made basically flat-footed, stand in front of you. You know, didn't use his athletic gifts. Okay,
Mm,
that long rangey jab. When he got with Manuel, Manuel started having him on his toes boxing, using that jab. One jab, two, three, four, putting it in his face, combinations, moving. Okay, using that length, that
yeah.
taking advantage of his God-given athleticism of Lennox, and working on his forward. Just moving, his circling, pivoting around you and everything. Yeah, that's what man, basic fundamentals, man. But the most important thing was the footwork and competitive sparring. Why it's important to have competitive sparring in the ring because everybody pushes each other. Iron
Yeah.
sharpens iron. Yeah, and he had a lot of that. I never been to the Kronk. Okay, just the Kronk West. When he opened up a gym in Big Bear right after Larry Goosen, he
Okay.
opened up a gym in Big Bear. He called it Kronk West, and we used to go watch him train. And basic fundamentals, Manuel was the kind of guy that liked to work with range and distance, and Manuel loved knockouts. He wanted you to have that physical mindset, walk to your opponent, set it up with that jab, land that big right hand. And man, you know what I mean? That's great and dandy. If you, what if it helps out a lot when you got talent like Thomas Hearns or Lennox Lewis. It helps out a lot. You can execute that strategy better.
Mm,
When you got talent like that, Jesus, you know what I mean? It makes
yeah.
it makes the fundamentals look so much better. Like that Inoue. What the hell does that guy do special? It's just simple, basic fundamentals. That
Yeah, he
jab,
is. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
the combinations, the body punching. But
mm,
it's what's behind those punches. You can't teach that, man. Oh, that boy, that Inoue. And that's the same thing I seen in Tommy. Ooh, you remember Tommy Hearns?
of course, yeah.
Oh, oh,
Ferocious, yeah.
oh, and Lennox too. Oh, what a puncher, Lennox. I used to tell Lennox, I used to watch him. I used to say, hey, Lennox, I am so jealous. Meaning, how can a big guy like you have that much ability? You know what I mean? But Manny brought it out of him. See that coach he had before him, Pepe Correa? He was only using 50, 60% of his ability. When he got with Manny, Manny brought it out of him. That's one thing I noticed about Manny. He knew how to bring out the best in you. Manny, he knew how to communicate. He was a good strategist. Manny, all around, boy, that man, he was a walking boxing encyclopedia. Hey, man, I was pretty damn lucky to be around him all that time in Big Bear when I was there, man. You know what I mean? Being in the gym with him all the time. Fuck. Back then, I never thought, but now, as you get older, and he passed away, I'm like, man, I'm a lucky motherfucker, man, being around them guys. You know what I mean? You're talking about the greatest. I was telling my co-host Joe Heron, you never know how special these guys are until they pass away. Yeah, like Chargan. I knew Chargan was special, but when Futch passed away, I'm like, God dang, man. Or Manny passed away back in 2012, and Benton passed away, man, there ain't too many of them around, man. Joe Goosen is one. Buddy McGirt, I consider him a real solid trainer. Jesse Reed, my buddy, I talked to him yesterday. I'm talking about guys all the way back from the 70s, 80s, man. 80s, I know. Not the newer coaches that are, considered good who started in this century. I'm talking about the past century when boxing was different back then. But Manny, he taught me the fundamentals. You know what Manny hated? He hated all that fancy pad work. He thought it was a bunch of bullshit. He told me that shit back in 2000, way before he passed. He said how much bullshit it is. Don't teach you nothing. He goes, all that choreographed stuff is made for movies, but it don't work in a real fight. Yeah. And Manny, he wanted his fighters to punch through his target, man. He wanted his fighters, to get the weight into the punches, man. Manny had one thing in his mind, and that was knockouts. And he instilled it into his fighters. Thomas Hearns, godly. Oh, I don't know if you saw that fight when he fought Pepino Cuevas when he won the title.
Yeah, the way he knocked him out, well, the way he knocked him down, that right hand.
I know the referee in that fight. God, Daniel, I think it was Daniel Van der Weyck. I can't remember his name, man, but I knew him. I think he passed away. Last time I talked to him was a long time ago, and he was refereeing that fight. He told me that was the hardest he ever seen somebody get hit. When Thomas Hearns, he was in the ring, and I talked about him. He goes, "Oh yeah." Once I mentioned that fight, he goes, "Oh yeah." I'll never forget that. He goes, "That's the hardest I ever seen somebody get hit with the right hand." Yeah, when he hit Davis.
I think Thomas Hearns was pound for pound the best puncher ever because he carried his power up through the divisions.
Yeah,
without
steroids or strength and conditioning. Okay, like these dudes do nowadays. Oh come on, man! You can't hype. Man, I know about that crap. You want to hear a story?
Yeah, go for it.
Manny told me this a long time ago. He was so pissed off. It was back before he died. He was, and he was like, man, disgusted. Like, man, all these motherfuckers, Manny was a good cusser. He goes, all these MFers, man, they're all on that shit. He knew a lot of them guys were on that shit. He goes, there's one particular gym, world famous gym. I don't want to mention the name. He goes, he called it Jew Central. Yeah, because everybody in that gym was on that. You know who the biggest drug pushers in boxing are? The biggest drug dealers are in boxing?
No.
Strength and conditioning coaches. That's what he told me. Yeah, he goes, the biggest drug dealers in boxing, drug pushers, are the strength and conditioning coaches. He told me this, man. I'm not saying, and he's right. You know what I mean? But Hearns was natural, man. He didn't do all that strength conditioning and all that crap. Man, he didn't believe on all that crap. He believed in, old school push-ups, pull-ups, and all that, chopping wood and running, and you know what I mean? Hard sparring. That was number one. And all the trainers I mentioned, they believe in shadow boxing. Yeah, that's why I emphasize. Nowadays, man, these fucking fighters, they don't even shadow box before they spar, especially here in Mexico. You know what I mean? Or even when they're training. Or when they shadow box, it's more to loosen up instead of working on technique and fundamentals and working on what do you call it? Different combinations, working on defense, working on your footwork, on and all the other million things you could do with shadow boxing. Shadow box is number one. That's enough. They all told me that was number one. That was number one in developing fundamentals. All of them stressed it. Futch, Manuel, and Georgie Benton. Now, Manuel used to get in the ring with his fighters. When they shadow box, he get in the ring and teach them stuff. Futch would be on the outside rope telling him stuff. Like when he was training Bo, do this, do that. Benton too. Benton believed in that jab, working on jab. That's gonna dictate everything. That's gonna control the fight. You know what I mean? But everybody, they all believed in shadow boxing. Nowadays, guys, I mean, I've seen it. You go around any gym, they don't shadow box correctly, or if they even shadow box. I mean, that's one thing I noticed. That's how you learn your fundamentals. That's how you learn your fundamentals of defense, offense, and your footwork, balance. It's getting in that ring, working on things, man. Working on that jab, working on head movement, whatever, whatever. Working on this, working on inside fighting, working on different scenarios that are going to happen in a fight. You do it when you're shadow boxing first. Now, everybody just puts on the hand pad, the wraps, puts on gloves. Let's hit the pads and do that Mayweather shit or that. They don't teach you nothing, and they hated that. See, Eddie and George didn't see all this new shit. They passed away, but Manuel got to see it, and he used to just shake his head, and and he always told me, man, there's boxing is missing teachers. They got a lot of trainers, but not teachers. Yeah, he used to tell me. Eddie told me that back then too. Yeah. Eddie told me that. Yeah.
So you mentioned Emanuel Steward was great at strategy. So I mean, you yourself as a top coach, how do you advise coaches to improve their sort of strategy and how they study fights and game plan?
You watch film, watch tape, study the game. Then you start gaining the knowledge. Then you can start, when you see a certain style, you can start seeing a fighter's, okay, here's the way I like to break down a fight. I do it on my radio, on my podcast, War Week Boxing. When we break down a fight, I break down the strengths and weaknesses of both fighters and the keys for victory, the strategy they need. But I could do it pretty good. I don't need to watch a lot of tape. I just got to watch a few rounds. Then I know what we got to do. You know what I mean? But watch tape. Develop a skill set. That's a skill set now, okay? Strategies, developing strategies, how to beat your opponent. Start working, watching tape, studying the fighter's strengths and weaknesses, and start developing strategies on how to defeat your opponent. Take notes, get a little notebook, and your boxing IQ will increase. I don't need that shit because I don't need to do that because I've been, like I said, I've watched tape all the way from the 80s, man. And,
yeah. So you basically you advise boxers to improve their knowledge by just watching as many fights as possible, studying as many fights as possible. Coaches. Coaches. So coaches need to watch as many fights as possible to sort of improve their own sort of boxing knowledge.
Well, you got to like it too, though, man. I used to love watching tape, man. I used to watch it. I love watching all these fights, man. You got to love it. You got to have a passion. If you don't like it, you're not going to learn that. You got to have a passion.
Yeah. Exactly.
You pick up the shit, and you'll pick up this. That Duran versus Davey Moore. I must have watched that over 20 times. Every time I learned something different. One thing about Duran, I learned back in the 80s. A guy named Lindo Holmes back then. He was the number one.
Lindo Holmes. Yeah. Did he fight? Did he fight Gomez?
No, Lindo Holmes was his number one ranked super middleweight by the IBF back in the days.
I'm thinking someone else then.
No, it was back in the 80s. He was going to fight Duran. He was training in our gym when I was, back when I started training guys way back then. And I said, he was getting ready to fight Duran. First question I asked him, what do you think? What do you think impresses me about Duran? He goes, he's a very underrated defensive fighter up in the trenches. I said, you know what? I was saying the same thing. Up close, he's hard to hit.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a clean shot off him. And
Mm.
Holmes, I seen that back then because like I said, I was pretty, God given. I had a gift to see stuff. A lot of people didn't. Holmes saw that. Like I saw the same thing. He does a lot of stuff in the pocket up close where it's hard to get a clean shot. Like up front, he'll put his head out there to lure you to throw that uppercut. And once he sees it, he'll step back just to make you miss. Or he has little subtle head movements just to make you miss, punches. Or he'll block it, you know what I mean? Or he'll roll with a punch. Or one of my favorite things he does, Davey Moore, he had his, Duran always kept his left hand low. Davey Moore saw that. So Davey Moore was always trying to land that right hand at medium range.
And Duran was just rubbernecking.
Huh?
Rubberneck. Duran was just rubberneck.
Roll with the punch. He rolled.
Yeah.
Duran he was baiting him to do it. Yeah, throw your right hand. Roll with it. Duran, he never hit Duran flush. I was like, that's a bad motherfucker. When he seen that, hey, that's a bad shit. You new guys listening, don't do it, man. I mean, learn the basic fundamentals first.
Yeah.
You're going to get knocked out if you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Duran, he must have practiced that shit a long time just to make it just natural. As soon as he felt that punch, just roll with it. The punch, the power goes right through it. Man, what a fucking bad. I mean, you know who told me I wrote something on an Instagram post one time. I was demonstrating that. You'll see on my Instagram post. And Orlando Canizales.
Yeah, of course, so great fighter. He was the original Lomachenko. With his footwork, wasn't
the
it?
angles. Footwork,
yeah.
beautiful. He sent me a note. He goes, I used to do that, and it's hard to do. He goes, the roll with the punch. He sent me a note on Instagram. He goes, yeah, I used to do that a lot, and it's very hard to do. I go, yeah. I messaged him back. I said, yeah, you and Duran, I learned this from you and Duran when you were coming up. I go, I don't recommend nobody doing it, man, until you got a lot of experience. I told Orlando that, Canizales. He was trained by Jesse Reed, my good friend, yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Jesse had him his whole career, taught him everything, all the angles, all that stuff you seen Canizales.
Yeah.
It was Jesse Reed. That was his creation, yeah.
Amazing.
Canizales is a good fighter.
Excellent fighter, yeah. Both him and his had a brother as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Gabby. Hell of a fighter, too.
Yeah.
But didn't listen. He was more of a hard head, yeah. Oh, he knocked out Richie Sandoval, boy. Man, Richie Sandoval went to the hospital, almost died. Yeah, when he won the title. Yeah, after that fight, Aaron retired Richie Sandoval because Aaron felt bad and was scared to death that he almost died on his watch. So Aaron gave him a lifetime job. Now he works at Top Rank in the gym over there. Just runs the gym with over there. Yeah.
Nice.
What a fighter that Sandoval was. And yeah, that Canizales boy, who they were comparing him to Duran, the way, his ferociousness, his heavy hands. Oh yeah. Who wasn't even thinking about his brother, Orlando. But Orlando became the better fighter because, better attitude, listened. He stayed with Jesse his whole career. 19 titles defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. He could fight.
That great fighter. Canizales, great fighter, yeah.
Great angles too. Oh my God. Yeah. Jesse taught him all that stuff, man. I'll tell you some stuff on one of these days on how Jesse taught him how to do all that stuff, man. And I learned all that stuff from Jesse. And all that stuff, I apply it, work the angles, especially inside. I mean, just don't try to mow the guy down and over bully him. When you fight a guy in the pocket and, you see he's physically strong and you can feel his strain and, oh God, this son of a bitch hits hard. Shit, you better start stepping at angles. Okay. So you don't get hit by them big bombs, man. Yeah. But Jesse taught me all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
did a good
we'll go on to Jesse Reed as well. But before we do, you mentioned Georgie Benton as well. So talk to us about the training techniques of Georgie Benton, because he was, a lot of people say, the original Philly shell master, and then he sort of learned his trade as a coach. Well, a little bit more. He was a coach under Eddie Fudge, and then he trained Pernell, Whitaker, amongst other greats as well.
he has some great talent to work with, man. It's pretty. It's a lot. When you got great talent to work with, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier on the coach than a guy that can't spell fight. Okay, when you got a guy like Pernell Whitaker, how are you gonna fuck that up? Okay, I'm being honest. I mean,
yeah, but Whitaker was an Olympic champion, wasn't he?
Oh, you ever see? You guys watch Pernell Whitaker when he won the gold medal, '84 against the Puerto Rican guy. That guy was like a seasoned pro with 15 to 20 pro fights. Watch him back then. He was a seasoned pro back then, man. Not like these amateurs that come out of the amateurs nowadays. They look like amateurs. Whitaker was like a seasoned pro back then. So when Benton got him, Jesus, man. I mean, it's pretty easy to train a guy like that. You know what I mean? But George was a boxing. I respect his boxing mind. Okay, his philosophy, and the importance of defense, working behind that jab. Okay, them uppercuts. He loved them uppercuts, man. You get close. He used to tell me, once you get close, you're close to the guy, just drop down and rip the uppercuts. Come back with the uppercut. They ain't gonna see it. It's shit always work, man. He'll go, once you get close, just drop down. And once you boom, boom, come back with the right uppercut. Yeah, he said it works. It works. Stuff like that. And turning the fighter. You're fighting a tough guy, physical, and he's coming at you. Just keep turning him. Keep turning him. Okay? Because the guy that's a physical pressure fighter, they need their feet set. Okay? And they need you to be a stationary target so they can get their punches off, so they can get in the rhythm. Okay? To build any momentum. But if you keep turning them, they got to reset their feet, and they can't set their feet. If they can't set their feet, they can't get off on their punches, and they can never get in the rhythm. So George was a big believer in turning your fighter.
I believe it was. I know George Benton worked with Eddie Fudge. Yeah, George Benton worked with Eddie Fudge. Eddie Fudge would say that a ball can't charge in a circle, so keep turning them.
Keep turning them. Yeah. I think Fudge might have Fudge might have taught him that, but they worked together.
Yeah.
They worked together. Wow, man. Oh, two brilliant boxing minds. Jeez. But George, this too. Pop, jab. Guy tries to counter with the right hand cross block. Catch.
That's quite famous in the Philly circles, isn't it, of coaching, using that right hand to catch on the opposite side. Yeah.
It's like a catcher's mitt, a baseball. Guy throws a baseball at your face, you just catch it. You know what I mean?
I suppose a little bit more difficult now with the way gloves are now as compared to when Benton was fighting in the 60s, for example, with the thumbless attachment. Yeah, but nonetheless, still a great tactic, isn't it?
What you do is in the dressing room, man, you soften it up a little so it becomes more flexible. You know what I mean? So you can open it a little. You know what I mean? Catch. It's called cross blocking. Mr. Fudge used to tell me that. Block. Yeah, block. And just catch. Guy throws a jab, parry it. You know what I mean? Even with your left hand, though. Guy throws a right hand. Guy throws a hook. You know what I mean? Guy throws a body shot. Bring your elbow down. Drop your weight into it. Yeah.
But, you mentioned Meldrick Taylor. I remember seeing Meldrick Taylor shadowboxing. He was doing a lot of the cross blocking.
Yep. Boom.
Yeah.
So was Pete Pernell.
Yeah.
He did the same thing. You know what I mean? And a lot of upper body movement. A lot of head and upper body movement. Benton used to tell him. You know what I mean? Up and down. Make your head an elusive target. Yeah. And that jab though. That jab was George's. Get back to that jab once you get that range. That's gonna dictate the pace of the fight.
Pernell Whitaker, I think his jab was one of the best I've studied because his was different. Someone like Holmes, he used this jab. It was like a right hand; he could knock you out with it. But Pernell Whitaker, he had a lot more variations to his jab, more variety to his jab. Both great jabs.
He'd flick it in your face, flick it like quick, just to set up his left hand, just to keep you at bay, keep you occupied. You know what I mean? To use it as a decoy to set up that left hand of his, and them body punches. Whitaker was a very underrated body puncher.
He was, wasn't he?
Oh, he was a very underrated body puncher. And of course, his great defensive skills, elusive as fuck. Just tremendous reflex. Look, if you got the God-given athletic talent, you could get away with that shit. Okay, you can develop the skills, them elite level skills that the best fighters have. But if you ain't got no God-given talent to do that, you can't do that. No way. You can try. You're gonna get hit. So it depends on what the God-given athletic talent God gave you, man. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, George Benton has some damn good talent to work with. Main events, when they signed the '84 class, they signed Tyrell Biggs, Mark Breland, Evander Holyfield, Meldrick Taylor, Pernell Whitaker. The fuck? How can you fuck it up with that talent? You don't have some talent. And they're all Olympic gold medalists. Come on, man. You gotta be a pretty big dummy to screw that up, man. But then again, Lennox Lewis, his first coach, didn't develop that all them God-given gifts he had. He didn't develop them to its fullest potential. That's why they hired Emanuel. Yeah. Even Klitschko too. Klitschko wasn't fighting to their potential until Emanuel.
Yeah, he got a lot better with Emanuel Steward as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Emanuel said they didn't like that hard sparring. They were into that strength and conditioning shit. Emanuel told me. He goes, after 6 rounds, they didn't want to do no more. Emanuel pushed him. No, you're doing more. You're doing more. Yeah.
Wow.
To get that mentality.